Hello there, you are welcome to HisGov Tv, and this is our Chief Examiner's Report series. And so, in this series, which I have a playlist on the channel, you can check for yourself. I will be updating you on the report of the Chief Examiners, and these reports are very important for both students, candidates, and teachers to know the mistakes of some of the candidates and even to learn about the strength of these candidates. So the aim of these videos is to let students or expose candidates to their weaknesses, which have been identified by the examiners, all right, and also the strength of these candidates. And so if you are a candidate and you are watching this video, if you're a teacher and you are watching this video, I presume that it is going to be very, very useful to you. For candidates, you would be able to know the mistakes that students make in the examination hall or in the writing of their exams. And then if you're a teacher too, you can introduce your students to some of these mistakes so that they become exposed. So today we are looking at that of social studies. I have done some of the other subjects. You can check if your subject is in there. So let's begin with social studies, which is a core paper, and almost every student will write a social studies paper. So we only take a look at the paper 2, the essay, mistakes that students make. Let's take a look at the general comments. 1, standard of the paper. The standard of the paper compared favorably with that of the previous year. So yeah, comparing to the previous year, it was okay. But for performance of candidates, the overall performance of candidates was higher than that of the previous year. Okay, let's take a look at the point 3. Let's look at a summary of candidates' strength. What candidates did well that they are encouraged to do so or to do more. 1, majority of the candidates adhere to the rubrics of the paper, and so the rubrics has to do with the instructions around the paper. Do not write here. For example, do not write in this section. Answer only 2 questions or 4 questions. Answer at least 1 question. So these are the rubrics, and students were able to do that. They followed it well. 2, for their strength, most candidates were able to 1, explain the concept capabilities of individuals well, outline social-cultural practices that have outlived their usefulness, and explain ways by which traditional music and dance promote national development, outline for reasons for which people marry and measures couple can take to resolve their challenges, explain the term peace building, and give reasons for which ethnic conflict should be discouraged. Highlight the roles of local industries in the socio-economic development of Ghana. So these were some of candidates, strength, so they could do well in these areas. Let's take a look at the weaknesses of candidates. The weaknesses identified in candidate scripts were that 1, some of the candidates had difficulty with the spelling of the words that relates to the paper, so misspelling of words. 2, some candidates had difficulty in providing answers to some of the questions. They could not 1, list the element of social environment. 2, describe ways by which the physical environment influences the activities of man. And 3, discuss ways in which human resources can be effectively utilized in Ghana. And then 5, discuss ways of preventing autocratic rule in Ghana. These areas were students' weakness. So ask yourself, are you weak in these areas? Would you be able to give the right response to these questions? Let's move on to the remedies. These are the suggested remedies to the weakness of students. 1, candidates must read the recommended textbooks to be familiar with literature and vocabulary of the subject. Read the recommended textbooks. 2, tutors must ensure that candidates study all the topics in the social studies syllabus and gain mastery of the content before they sit for the paper. Then 3, teachers must help candidates to understand ways by which the physical environment influences the activities of man. And then 4, teachers must help candidates to discover the ways in which human resource can be effectively utilized in Ghana. Then the last one, teachers must ensure candidates know the ways of preventing autocratic rule in Ghana. So basically, they are topics that examiners are, they are actually drawing teachers' attention to these topics to ensure that the same mistakes are not, made again. So let's go to the detailed comments. Now, the detailed comments has to do with the individual questions. All right. So we are going to take the questions one after the other, and then look at how students fared in these 4 questions. Let's look at, of course, question number 1. This, I must say, it's a 2021 Wassce paper. Sorry, I forgot to mention to you earlier on. This 2021 Wassce paper. 1. Explain the concept, capabilities of an individual. B. Outline 3 problems associated with false identity of an individual. C. Discuss 4 actions that can be taken to discourage false identity among individuals. So these were the questions. Let's take a look at how students fared in these questions. This was a question in 3 parts, A, B, and C. And candidates were expected to answer all. The A and B parts were fairly answered by the candidates, and they scored good marks for them. The C part of the question required candidates to discuss actions that can be taken to discourage false identity among individuals. It was a difficult area for candidates. They either did not understand the question or did not study the topic well. Instead of writing about actions that can be taken to discourage false identity among individuals, some wrote on causes of false identity or how an individual can protect itself or herself from fraudsters. Some of their response were I, the individual should not move with peers, and also I, the individual should be confident, etc. These were wrong response given by students. Let's take a look at some of this, the answers expected from candidates. 1. Employing guidance and counseling. 2. Isolating those who fake their identity. 3. Taking legal actions against fake people. 4. Rebuking and reprimanding people who fake their identity, etc., etc. The performance of candidates was fairly good, yeah. So let's look at the question number 2. Outline 4 socio-cultural practices that have outlived their usefulness and should therefore be abolished. Explain 4 ways by which traditional music and dance promote national development in Ghana. So let's look at the performance of candidates. A good number of the candidates attempted this question and performed fairly on it. The A part tasked the candidates to outline 4 socio-cultural practices that have outlived their usefulness and should therefore be abolished. Most of the candidates who answered this question were able to identify some of the outmoded socio-cultural practices, but were unable to show why they should be abolished. They therefore lost some marks. Yeah. The B part of the question was answered by a good number of candidates with a varied, response. Majority of the candidates who answered this question provided very good answers. There were very few candidates who could not provide the correct answers. The required answers, those for candidates could have provided work. So these are the correct answers to the question. And I believe you remember the question: how music promote national development in Ghana. Music and dance. So intensify the sense of communal living, promote entertainment and leisure, promote tourism. So these were the marking scheme, and this is what the chief examiners were expecting from students. All right, in their answering of the questions. Let's take a look at question number 3. Question number 3 says, outline 4 reasons for which people marry in Ghana. Discuss 4 measures that can be taken by couples to resolve challenges in their marriage. This question has 2 parts, A and B, and candidates were required to answer both. The A part tasked candidates to outline 4 reasons for which people marry. Candidates understood the question and provided the correct answers. Of course, this is a popular question. For the part B, most of the candidates explained the measures that can be taken by couples to resolve challenges in their marriages and scored good marks. Notable among the answers given by the candidates were tolerance of each other, mutual trust and respect among couples, and performance of marriage responsibilities. Majority of the candidates who answered this question scored very good marks, and performance of candidates on this question was good. Yeah, I mean, this is a very popular question. So yeah, let's look at question number 4. Now, explain the term environmental challenges. List 4 examples of environmental challenges. List 4 elements of social environment. Describe 4 ways by which the physical environment influences the activities of man. Let's look at how students fared. This question was in 3 parts, A, B, and C. The candidates were required to answer all the parts. The A part required candidates to explain the term environmental challenges and list 4 examples of it. Candidates did not answer the question well. An example of wrong explanation of environmental challenges is the social emphasis to conduct the planting of trees in the community. Candidates were expected to write that environmental challenges are conditions that make it difficult for man to effectively utilize the resources and the environment to his survival. Most of the candidates lost marks for this. So most of the candidates, were writing about the social emphasis on the conduct of planting a tree in the community. Candidates were expected to write that environmental, so they were of course rather focusing on something else, and so that is what candidates were expected to write on. For part B, candidates were to list 4 elements of social environment. Most candidates could not answer it. They scored 0 marks. Some of the wrong answers they gave include traditions, birth rate, death rate, population, and human consumption. The correct answers expected from candidates include school, community, market, family, and workplace, etc. Right? The C part was the worst answered. Candidates misunderstood the question. Whereas candidates were able to describe ways by which the physical environment influences the activities of man, their answers were directed towards ways by which man's activity influences the physical environment. Their answers then include mining activities, use of DDT for fishing. Almost all candidates who answered this question scored very low marks. Some of the correct answers candidates were expected to provide were: seasonal changes affect agricultural production, geology determines the nature of mining activities, topography of land influences road construction, and many others. And sometimes I encourage students to put down these answers because that is a marking scheme that the examiners are actually looking for. All right, let's take a look at the lesson. Question number 5. Examine 5 responsibilities that political independence imposes on the citizens of Ghana. This was a straightforward question that required candidates to examine responsibility that political independence imposes on the citizens of Ghana. Very few candidates answered this question and performed poorly. They did not understand the question. Some of them wrote on what the government of Ghana is expected to do for the development of the nation. Can you believe that? Some too focused only on the citizens. They needed to indicate that both leaders and citizens of the nation have the responsibility to develop the nation. Candidates were expected to explain the responsibilities of the citizens towards the nation's development. Some of the responsibilities of a citizen included these points over there. So overall, the performance of candidates was fair. So I also recommend that you write down these points. Let's look at number 6. Question number 6. Explain the term peace building. Justify 4 reasons for which ethnic conflict should be discouraged in Ghana. This question was in two parts, A and B. Candidates were expected to answer both parts. Majority of the candidates answered this question. For A part, most of the candidates were able to explain the term peace building and scored very good marks. For the part B, candidates were expected to justify the reasons for which ethnic conflicts should be discouraged. Most of the candidates failed to answer the question very well. They rather described methods of conflict resolution instead of reasons for which conflict should be discouraged. Only a few candidates were able to answer the question well and provided answers such as these answers what they were looking for as to the reasons why ethnic conflict should be discouraged in Ghana. Now let's look at number 7. Highlight 4 features of democracy. Discuss 4 features of preventing autocratic rule in Ghana. The A part of the question required candidates to highlight features of democracy. Most candidates clearly exhibited their understanding of the question and provided accurate answers for this part. Part B of the question, on the other hand, was not well answered by most of the candidates. They were asked to discuss ways of preventing autocratic rule in Ghana. Most of them described the characteristics of autocratic leadership instead of ways of preventing it. Due to this deviation, most candidates lost marks. They could have provided the following points as answers to the question. So these are also the points expected of candidates to write in response to ways to prevent autocratic rule in Ghana. Let's look at number 8. Candidates' performance on this question was not good enough. So let's look at 8. State 2 difference between science and technology. Highlight 4 measures that have been taken by the government of Ghana to advance the course of science and technology. The part A of the question tasked candidates to state 2 differences between science and technology. Even though the question was very popular among candidates, not all of them were able to state the 2 differences as required. However, every candidate who attempted the question was able to state at least 1 difference between science and technology. The B part of the question demanded 4 measures that have been taken by the government of Ghana to advance the course of science and technology. Most of the candidates got it right, but some of them deviated and provided some unsatisfactory answers, such as these were some of the unsatisfactory answers given by students. You can read some of them for yourself. Now, candidates' answers should have reflected what the government has done or is doing, such as these were some of the things that students were supposed to have, written. Overall performance of this question was fairly good. Let's take a look at the last one, I guess. Explain the term resource development. Highlight 4 ways in which human resource can effectively utilize in Ghana. The first part of the question required candidates to explain the term resource development. Many candidates were able to give a good explanation of the term, while a good number could not explain it well. Some also wrote on human resource development. For the B part, majority of the candidates presented answers on how human resource is developed instead of how it is effectively utilized. The few candidates who understood the question gave very good answers and scored very good marks. Some correct answers expected from candidates included. These were some of the answers that students were supposed to or were expected to actually, give. Let's look at the last question. Explain the following terms. We have productivity, entrepreneurship. Highlight any 4 roles local industries. Highlight any 4 roles of local industries in the socio-economic development of Ghana. The first part of this question required candidates to explain the terms productivity and entrepreneurship. Most of the candidates were able to explain productivity only as output per man hour. They could not give any further explanation of what the phrase output per man hour means. For entrepreneurship, most candidates presented answers suggesting the description of an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is the activity that is taken by a businessman or a woman, an entrepreneur, to make changes in the world. It involves combining resources in creating business through innovations to make profit. It is also a process of setting up business and combining resources to create products to solve social needs and also to make profit. For the B part, candidates were required to highlight roles of local industries in the socio-economic development of Ghana. Majority of candidates who answered this question provided the correct response and scored very good marks. Few of the candidates, however, gave wrong answers and lost marks for them. The performance of candidates on this question was, however, good. Fantastic. So I think we have had a very good discussion. I wish you all the best in your exams, and thank you for watching. Do not forget to subscribe and share our link to your friends in other schools. Have a nice day. Bye bye.